So first up, why does personal brand even matter at all? Is it something that we need to be concerning ourselves with when it sounds like all that sort of influencer kind of stuff? And nobody really wants to be an influencer, but everyone kind of wants the impact that an influencer tends to have, especially for their business. But 70% of customers tend to prefer buying from people over faceless brands. So that's a pretty important thing. You think of all the spokesmodels for makeup brands, for clothing brands, for sports brands, how they take a brand and a Nike swoosh on its own does nothing but add a famous basketball or a famous Winter Olympian to it, and suddenly you've got a very big movement. Also, there were 3 times engagement boost. That means more people engaging with this stuff when it's very personal and a lot more authentic than just like, here's me promoting myself and telling you how smart I am. The other thing is too, personal brands don't cost anything. Maybe a little bit of cringe and a little bit of indignity, but really, there's no real cost involved with it. You don't need to invest in LinkedIn premium accounts. You don't need to invest in, very expensive equipment or anything like that. Because what I'm going to show you today kind of gets you started in understanding what it is. And you'll see why it's something which doesn't really have to cost you any money. And that really comes down to the fact that personal branding is a free activity on its own. Got a bit of a 5-step framework here for you to kind of really kind of explore this for the first time. We're going to look at a little bit of what your why is. You know, that Simon Sinek, start with why thing. What's your why? What's your vision? What's your mission? All right. We've got to start from that stuff, which everyone says, yeah, you got to start with that stuff. But no one ever seems to do it. They just go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, I'll get onto that one day. But when it comes to personally putting yourself out there, you really have to have that point of view. Then you have to know who your customer is. Who is the kind of follower you want to have engaging with you, seeing your stuff? Are they someone who one day becomes a customer? Are they just followers who are advocates for you, who introduce you to their friends or the people they have in their influential network? Then we look at what your content pillars are, because personal brand is a uniquely online thing. Yeah, it certainly has an offline flavor to it, especially when you're looking at things like going to, networking events and becoming a member of, your local chamber of commerce or something. But really, it all starts with the digital world. And then we look, because it's digital, at profile optimization, making sure those first impressions really help to convert something down the track. And then visual identity, where you actually stand out and get recognized. It's very, very specifically for what you do. So let's get that underway, right? Clarity. What do you do? What are you offering? These are really, really good questions. How do you deliver the value that you deliver to people? And why are you doing it? We start off with the what you offer, because there's going to be something you're selling, something you want to achieve. Now, for some, personal brand is not about selling a product in a business. It may be about getting a job. So what they're offering becomes almost like a resume or a CV. How you deliver that value, well, that's by you finding out basically, what is it you offer to people that they can't get anywhere else, or would rather get from you and not from anywhere else. And then why are you doing this beyond, I just want to make a bit of money? Because I'm guessing if you're on this webinar today, you're not really someone who's driven just by the financial incentive of making lots of money. Although, money's good. I like money. You're probably on this webinar because you're looking for something with impact, something with meaning, something with purpose. You've got some kind of thing you do that you feel like makes the world a better place. So the questions we asked are, what is that thing? What are you passionate about it? And do you have core beliefs that drive you? So I've got a core belief, and it might be controversial to some people, but I believe that only business can save the world. It's a core belief I've had for quite a long time now. It took me a while to come to it. But that core belief drives everything I do. It's why I do these webinars every week, multiple times a week, why I do workshops, why I go and speak all around the place. It's not just because I pay for it, because sometimes I don't. I've got a mission. I've got a core belief that I'm driving through. Now, that core belief then colors what it is that I offer and do. It then colors how I deliver the value in that. And it gives me my why. If I believe that only business can save the world, what am I doing about that? In my case, I am creating the capability in these businesses to be sustainable so that they can save the world. Now, I've got a whole theory behind that I won't go into now, but that value, that core belief I've got in there, then drives me. Now, for me, The values that are not negotiable in number three here, that is all about the things that if, and I went through this with a workshop last night, so it's really very fresh in my mind. But my own values are non-negotiable. There's three of them: to be effective, to be approachable, and to be honest. If I am called out on being dishonest, ineffective, or unapproachable, those three accusations would really deeply hurt me. I'd feel really bad about that. And I feel bad about them because they're my core. They are my core non negotiable values. So think about what those are for you. Then think about how you want to be remembered. What do you want to be known for? Which is all about what we did in a live workshop last night in the Darwin Innovation Hub. How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as that person who delivered great value, and they certainly want to come back and get that value from you again and might even pay for that value? I just had a call with someone who paid for time, like literally about an hour ago, paid for half an hour of my time on a Zoom call because we once met up at an event about 7 years ago. And he remembered that I knew some stuff about Facebook ads. So just from that one meeting 7 years ago, I was remembered as an expert in that specific thing that led to a paid call. So how do you want to be remembered? What do you want people to remember about you? And what difference do you want to make? Are you trying to enable children to learn more effectively? Are you wanting to save the world? Are you wanting to restore the environment, get plastic out of our lives? Whatever that particular mission is, all these things have to be sorted out first before you go onto a personal brand. But unfortunately, what you see most of with personal branding these days is photo shoots, videos, selfies, makeup, brand colors, logos, and aesthetic, right? We go straight for the aesthetic. Why? Because that's what we're being taught what brand is. This is personal brand. Very, very different. This is how you, so founders and people who are beginning their startups and all that, they have a brand, but they also have their own brand. And their own brand is often what gets deals across the line for them ahead of just the idea itself. So how do we go from the why and those core values to a vision and a mission? And the mission and vision seem like one of those you really, really, this thing again, no one really cares about the mission and vision. And true, no one goes to your website and looks for what are their vision and mission. It's not about the optics of a vision and mission. It's about what it actually drives you to do. When your vision and mission is not really what you actually want to do, but you're saying it because you want to tick a few diversity boxes or a sustainability box, or you want to say the right things to come across as having the right values, then it won't live up to it. We see brands all over the place just fall down one after the other because they don't live up to the promise. So if your emotional core drives everything you do, this then has to become the core of how you then communicate, which is your vision. What is the future state of the world that you're looking towards? Are you like Elon Musk wanting to put people living on Mars? Do you want your community to be in a much better economical state? Do you want well-being to be at the core of what people are doing? Where do you want that audience and that community that you're talking to? Where do you want them to be in the future? Now, you don't have to be the person who makes that happen. It's just what you see as an ideal future. Your mission then is related to that because that's the individual steps and the practical actions that you take daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to move towards that vision. So the example would be, in my case, if my vision is to help business, for business to save the world, my mission then is to create the tools, the resources, and the training to enable them to save the world. And as I said, I've got a whole stack of stuff around. I even wrote a thesis about it. That is your brand in motion. That's not just the pretty picture in the future. It's how you're going to get there. So I want to achieve this. This is the world I see, but I'm going to take these individual steps to get to that vision. Hopefully that's one of the more clear ways you've had this experience shown to you. Now we look for who that follower is. Who's the person who's going to engage with you as a personal brand? These days, personal brands happen all over digital platforms. We kind of know it from probably, Instagram is kind of like the queen of the personal branding stuff. But really, LinkedIn has become more of that, particularly in the startup field, the founder field, small business, individual solopreneurs. It's really all about LinkedIn these days. But there is a place for Instagram, for Facebook, for X and all the other platforms. But really, what's going to happen? You're going to see it's going to be probably Instagram. You're going to do something there, and you're going to do something on LinkedIn. But you've got to ask a few questions about the kind of person that you want to have follow you. First up, what do they like? What drives them? What's passionate? Are they passionate about the same things you are? Because if you're saying you want to make the world a better place, but they'd rather see the world burn down, you're probably not a good alignment. Or the case of one person I blocked recently, someone who has very, very specific behavioral codes that they expect of people. And I don't necessarily, I'm a bit more liberal about my behavioral codes with people. We really didn't see eye to eye. So we're never going to work together, not because we don't see to eye, but we have very fundamental problems with each other's approach, which will eventually come into, if we decide to do business together, some kind of clash that we can't get past because they're so personal and so core to who we are. So what are they passionate about? If you're working in the realm of fashion, do they have a passion for fashion that is sustainable and not plastic infested and made from natural fibers and not using modern slavery practices in developing nations and taking advantage of people? Then an important one to look at because we tend to look at what they love. What they love. That feels nice. What did my people love? You've also got to look at what they're afraid of. Also, a little bit of what they hate. So, for example, the people that I tend to work with, they tend to be fearful of a future where the full-time job looks like it's going away. They're fearful of a world where they'll get left behind because of AI. They are fearful that they'll get left behind because of the impact of social media. They fear what the impact of social media may be on their businesses. They're very real fears. Now, I don't have that fear myself. So I may be a good match for them because I can kind of give them a different perspective that they are looking for. They're not looking to confirm their fears, not the people I want to work with. What they're trying to do is look for somebody who gives them a reason to have some hope. So your job is not to necessarily manipulate those fears, but it tends to be to understand those fears so you can produce some things that help to alleviate or relieve those fears. Now, you've got your values. We've already talked about those. What are your three main values? What are your customers and your audience? What do they value? Because that's going to tell you a lot about what their motivations will be. Because if they don't align with your values, they won't trust you. They won't even like you. So they're not going to buy from you, particularly if you're selling services, right? If you're selling your time, you're selling your expertise. That's not something that happens really well when people don't align. Products on a shelf, a can of Pepsi Max in a cafe or something, you might choose that. I would generally go into, a fridge, and if I see Coke Zero and I see Pepsi Max, straight for the Pepsi Max. I have an affinity with that brand because I like the underdog. I've got that underdog mentality about me that likes to go for the, not the top shelf thing, but the next thing down, the struggler, the battler, right? It's a little fetish I've got for the struggle. Which brings me on to that. What do your people who you are going to communicate to, what do they struggle with? What is their everyday struggles that have a relationship back to what you do? Because the point A is maybe their struggle and fears on the journey, and then they move across to your content, which provides them some kind of hope, some kind of helpful guidance, maybe a solution. Then they achieve their goals at point B. That's where you want to get them for. But in order to get them from point A to point B, you have to get them to actually see your content. And that comes from that affinity, being referred through. And we've got the best time possible in social media because social media is no longer about your following numbers or your subscriber counts. None of that matters anymore. It's all about affinity and interest. Have someone expressing right now an interest in the kind of thing you do, you have a very big chance of your content being surfaced to them. The downside of that is if you consistently are just selling, then that won't happen. That won't be surfaced because it's low quality content, or particularly on YouTube these days. If it's just AI slop content, it won't come through. That's not personal brand anyway. Personal branding is not AI slop unless you make fun of the AI slop. Like I do that all the time. I do these stupid AI photos of myself that are so obviously AI, and I even point out with a little sign saying, "Yes, this is AI generated," because the point of it is to laugh at myself, which makes people feel comfortable to approach me. Now, that's my thing. It doesn't have to be yours. You could be working in some professional services where, that would be professional death to be doing that sort of thing. And it may feel really uncomfortable. I'm old. I've got past all that teenage anxiety and wondering what people will think about me, but you might not be there yet. You may never be there, and that's completely fine. As long as you know what your audience is passionate about, what they are scared of, what they value, and what they struggle with, that allows you to make the content as a personal brand that can reach them. So your ideal follower, let's think about what's their current situation. Where do you meet them at? If you're a counselor, generally people are going to have their first encounter with you because they've got a struggle. So they're in a negative space right now. So, or if you are someone who is working in the realm of maybe, helping people to celebrate something, they might be in a really jubilant mood or an overwhelmed mood. Just be aware of what their current situation's at. That's their point A. Then, if you understand what their top three sort of pain points or struggles or the things that keep them stuck or frustrated, then you go, okay, so my personal brand appeals to that kind of person in that kind of situation who has these pain points and they want to move from here to here. Now, what is here? We've got the start where they're at. What's the good that they want to get out of it? They want to, and it's very rarely a fact or an amount or a measurable outcome. It's usually a feeling. In my case, if I'm moving from, let's say, I've got to do some therapy on a particular issue very shortly, and part of that is there's a frustration I have that keeps coming up in my life again and again and again. I want to get past it, and I'm using therapy to get to the other side of that. But what does the other side look like? Is it a physical outcome? Is it a monetary outcome? No, it's actually a feeling. It's a restlessness that I want to get past. So in my case, I'm looking for the feeling. Most people looking for the feeling. They're not looking to buy a home. They're looking to buy a sense of security in the future. They're not looking to buy Pepsi Max. They're looking to be seen as someone who's a little bit of a rebel and won't drink Coke. There's a very different approach than, say, for instance, if someone's just buying something you actually physically need, such as, I don't know, milk and bread and I don't know, maybe groceries. That's a bit different. There's a little bit less emotional. But for you, as a personal brand, you have to work out what kind of strategy you're going to take in all this because you're going to produce content. Well, that's great. You can get AI to do so much of that stuff. But you got to go whether I'm looking, are you looking to, are you generated by monetization? Are you looking just simply to make money? If you're on this call, you're probably not, but that will be good to have. We all want the money. But you might be having a genuine interest in what you're doing. And I look at people like photographers, people in tech, web designers, people who are in, the therapeutic fields generally have an interest in what it is that they're going to be producing content about. And the people that they will work with also have at least an interest in that, but also could have some kind of expertise in it. So, photography is a great example there. They could spend hours and hours learning about that. It absolutely drives them. My partner does this all the time, hours and hours and hours researching lenses and equipment and spending a ton of money on it. And then there's the development interest. So if your content pillars are going to be about, okay, I'm going to teach what I know, the skill I know that people will pay for, that will pay the bills. But I've also got a genuine interest in this thing on the side of that. So let's just say you're a business strategist, but you're also a photographer who is into meditation. There is a place in a personal brand, not just to talk about what makes money. And this is the big difference between marketing and personal branding. Marketing would just say, concentrate on the business strategy or the web design business or the marketing business or the fruit and vegetable shop business or the stylist business or the copywriting business. The problem is though, so is everybody else who's any of those things. Every other copywriter and every other web designer, they do the same stuff. Oh, here's a web design I did. Oh, here's what I think about web design. Here's the top 3 trends in web design in 2026. It's all the same stuff. So you set yourself apart, not by doing more of that, but by going, okay, what am I actually else am I interested in? I'm not just a web designer. I'm not just a therapist. I'm also a birder. I love going and looking at birds. My case, I'm really into aviation and trains and urban design. I could talk about that. I could bring that in. The nerdy things I'm into, Star Trek, Star Wars, sci-fi. I can actually wind those into the story, into the narrative of who I am. And then there's the development interest. What are the stuff that I'm trying to do? In my case, it's the constant battle with my weight, working out, getting active, dealing with aging, all that sort of thing, because we're doing that too. That's the sort of thing we're looking for. Is how do we go from there? How do we wind all that together? And there are so many different ways. Just had someone ask if they can get a copy of the slides. Absolutely, you can. And I've got actually something better at the end than the slides that you'll be able to get hold of with the QR code that I'll provide at the end. And it's going to give you way more guidance through this than what I have on the slides. Profile optimization means making sure that when you go onto these profiles, have a good clear headshot, make it decent lighting, an expression in your face generally that's a smile. These kind of ones where you're, I'm going to look arrogant, you're going to look unapproachable, isn't personal branding. That is wankery. I'm going to be honest with you. Name and categorize yourself. So have some kind of, the idea that we have these little bios below who we are, particularly on business profiles and LinkedIn profiles. I've got very strong keywords in there. I'm going, I educate entrepreneurs, leaders, and speakers. So speakers, leaders, entrepreneurs. It's very clear who I'm going for. People know based on that, and I'll see it on every post, every comment that I do about that very thing. They're going to pick that up. So that's pretty awesome. If you can do that and then tie it to a few keywords that people would search for in there, that will be even better. Your bio and your links need to be clear and concise. They're about who you are and what you do, not just what you do. That's what I think in LinkedIn, it's, because we've gone down that path of it being such a, maybe some kind of corporate CV or a resume. It's way more than that. So it's got to be a bit about who you are. So you can go a corgi lover who spends time off doing Star Trek and helps businesses to achieve more of their goals by providing financial services advice. There you go. That creates a little bit of personality. You go, corgi lover. Oh my God, that's so cute. You're a dog lover. I love dogs too. And then you find that affinity starts to work because people don't just choose service providers based upon how good they are and what they do. They also choose them based upon affinity, how much they feel that they fit together. Have a few pinned posts, so I can probably show you some of that in my own profile, where I've got some things that I particularly lean to. If you go to my LinkedIn post, LinkedIn profile, for example, you'll see what I've pinned is my 2 newsletters. That's to me where I really want people to subscribe, not to newsletters on email, into my LinkedIn newsletters, because I do them on Tuesday and Sunday every single week. So that's something I really want to get in there. There could be, for other people, it could be a success story, some proof, some results, their best, most followed thing they ever did. It's up to you what you want to have said about yourself. And then there's highlights. So you got some evergreen stories, free content in there. I've actually got a little section where it's all about my services, and you'll see I've attached images in there as well, which tell just even quicker what it is I do, the services I provide in a very visual way. And having a visual consistency. And this is where I think we probably need to pop over into LinkedIn and have a bit of a look. It's going to move my microphone here and show you what I mean by the visual consistency. You'll start to see this. So in here, we've got all this. You can see how many post impressions I've got this week, doing pretty well, pretty good week, actually. So I've got this sort of here, very, very clear. I've got this moving thing. You get this on LinkedIn Premium. I've got the bright lighting, the block color to sort of show everything out. This is what I was talking about with the services. So most people just do a line in there of, oh, this is the things I do. Here's the services I provide. I go one step further by providing these little like visual cues: training, speaking, podcasts, coaching. Great. You can look at one thing and you see what I can do. But what you'll also notice in there is there's a visual aspect to this. The visual aspect of, that particular font on that black background, you'll start to see showing up elsewhere. Seeing it showing up in my videos and my posts, you'll start to see that whole thing, the black and white, the same font all the time, same kind of thing, same font again. There's a visual consistency in there without it all looking absolutely the same. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks familiar. See, this again is the same thing, but I've used some colors in there. They're my brand colors. And see, there is that consistency always coming through. It's not that things just stand out like sore thumbs or look ridiculous. They are very consistent. And that's what I mean by the consistency of it. So you don't really need to go to a point where you over brand. Probably the worst thing you can do is go in there and start creating branding around having your website address, your Instagram profile, everything showing in there all at the one time. You want to be able to have a bit of fun and whimsy in there as well. So once we get that visual consistency done, then the three pinned posts. So in my case, the pinned posts are just these, my newsletters. You got the featured, so you get to feature some stuff in there. It's got my Saturday sprint. So got what? We've got 7 new subscribers over the last week. It's pretty good. 184 editions I've done. That's 184 Saturdays. Been doing it a while. And you're seeing there that I've just got those. But what I could do is change that to have something else in there. I can remove those from featured and add maybe a link to something. I'll add to my newsletter, add to an article, a link to my website even. I can do that. And you can add in some details and a graphic in there as well, or add just pictures, presentations, documents, anything you want to. For me, I just want to get people onto those newsletters. That's my number one thing to do. So that's one of the ways you can really push for that personal brand, that people instantly recognize your stuff when it comes up. So those pinned posts could be a bit about your story, a quick win, a bit of proof, testimonials, client case studies, that kind of thing. So all that can work. Yeah. And then there's your unique visual identity. So I've got my way of presenting things, which is very much about that font, those colors, those ways of presenting something. I've taken a lot of head up there from some creators that I really admire. So Chris Do is one that you'll see a lot of familiarity between what I do and what he does. I've followed things like Matt Gray, who I think has got a really nice aesthetic. A few other YouTubers that I like their aesthetic as well. I'm not copying everything they're doing. I'm just doing something where I go, I like the way you've done that. I'm going to adopt that. And use very readable fonts. I use Google fonts. I use the font called Fig Tree. It's very clear, very readable. You might use something like Inter or any of the Helveticas, something that's very clear to read. And then you can have like a whimsical font as a highlight. So I've done that pretty much in my Instagram. If I just go in there, you'll start to see how I've taken my normal font and I've added in something else to it as well. So if we go on my profile, you'll start to see some of these ones here. This one here. So I've got my regular font going on there and then a whimsical font to match up to it. So I've got a very specific kind of thing. You're seeing the same stuff. There we go. You're seeing a consistency coming through. So nothing stands out so badly on a grid, but on the feed, it looks familiar enough to be mine. And then maybe, when it comes to photo shoots and stuff like that, what I did, I booked some time here at the Darwin Innovation Hub and had my partner, who's a photographer, take a bunch of photos of me around every one of my sides, above my head, around me, wearing these glasses, wearing the other glasses, wearing no glasses. So I had a variety of about 30 photos that I could load into Google and say, okay, based upon these photos, create this scenario of me doing something. And that's where you'll start to see some of my images posts. Here we go. So trying to find one here. Got so many photos of stuff. I could use it to create little crackers like this one. This one did very, very well. A lot of people seem to enjoy that one. Or things where, this is me again, looking disappointed because I wasn't speaking on the stage, or I was nervous about speaking on the stage. Trying to look at some others, the Boil the Frog one. So I've got options to put in these funny, interesting photos that are very clearly me, but are not real. And I make enough fun of them to know that people don't really see these as real photos. This is a particularly interesting one. This complete photo, this didn't happen. I've never walked on that boardwalk in Perth, but I placed myself in there waving based upon one of those photos. That's how you can create a visual. Now, once upon a time, you had to go and get a photo shoot at everything you ever did. Now you don't have to do that so much because you've got the power of AI to be able to take the photos of you and put them in scenarios. Just don't be dishonest about it. Just waving hello on a boardwalk in Perth is one thing, but pretending that you met up with the king and all that. Oof, that's scary. Stacey just asked what program I used to create the visuals. It was Google's Gemini. So I've got a Google Gemini that I use for that. So that's specifically their create image tool. It's called Nano Banana. This is the nickname they've given it. But yeah, it's Google's Gemini. So, but you can do the same thing in ChatGPT for image creation as well. It's very good at that. The only one that's not good at image creation is Claude. So if you're using Claude, it's not that great. But Gemini, as long as you've got a Google account, you'll get a limited amount of things to be able to do with those images. But it does work better when you load up a really clear photo of yourself first and say, put this person with sunglasses and a crazy sombrero hat at a taco restaurant by the beach in Acapulco or something like that. And you can get those scenarios. But just to be honest about it, don't try to put yourself in don't try to what they call it, wealth signal. So put this guy sitting on the bonnet of a Lamborghini or something like that. That sort of stuff, that's not cool. That's really dishonest. So look at your social profile over the next 24 hours and give yourself a bit of a questionnaire, right? Do you have a clear profile picture? Could a stranger tell what you do under 5 seconds just by looking at that and going, oh yeah, that's what you do? Are your pinned posts working hard enough? Now, I'd say mine aren't. I'm getting a few new subscribers to my newsletters, but what I probably need to do is get a bit more clear on that sort of thing. Did my last 9 posts feel visually consistent? Yeah, they did. They felt really consistent. Is my bio clear? Is it concise? Is it compelling? I sort of take the piss out of myself in mine a little bit. So it's really interesting. So you might do something like that as well. Putting it all together, you need some clarity. You really need to understand where it is you're coming from before you can then pick an audience that's going to match what you're going to offer them. Have some pillars for the kind of content you're going to create based around, here's the content that helps me to monetize what I'm doing. Here's the stuff that shows that I'm a creative, evolving human being. And here is the stuff that's showing what I'm liking to learn right now. So learning in public is a really powerful tool to show that you're not just someone who has expertise, but you've got more and more expertise every day because the world changes. Information changes so rapidly. Optimize every part of your profile and be very easy to recognize on the feed because you want that consistent font, some kind of consistent coloring or style. And with Canva these days, you've got the ability to do that. In fact, in my Canva, you'll see that I've got all that set up as templates that I just go in and do. So in my Canva, you can see here, I've got this that I use for my consistency of all my YouTube things, my workshop stuff, all there. You can see it all very, very consistent. And I don't really vary off that very much. And then when it comes to my graphics that I use online, there are the things I use to keep it nice and consistent. See, there's nothing there that really stands out of being so far away from it. That's my post for tomorrow morning right there. And then that's one I did a little bit different, but I still used one of my brand colors in there. So these are all things you can do. That's just in Canva. Shoko is asking for the Gamma app. So Gamma is a way to help me keep my this one here is Gamma that I'm using for my PowerPoint presentations or that's something I use to very quickly put together my ideas into presentable slide decks. So it's an AI app as well. What I want you to do though, if you want to follow up on any of this stuff and learn a bit more, just grab that QR code.